Welcome to Madison City Channel's Know Your Candidates interview, co-sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Dane County. I'm your interviewer, Peter Gottlieb, and I'd like to introduce Patrick Miles, running for Dane County Supervisor in District 34. As we begin, I'd like you to give an opening statement as to the educational, vocational, and civic experience you have, which qualifies you for this office, and why you are running for the Dane County Board.
Thank you, Peter. And just real quick, thank you to Madison City Channel and the League of Women Voters for this opportunity for voters to get to know me better and for people to be more informed voters. Um, the services and support that county government provides is profoundly impacts communities and most importantly our residents. And I know this firsthand. It's why I want to continue serving as your county board supervisor, because my mother was a single parent of 5 kids, a Japanese immigrant who worked long hours as a waitress. It was county assistance that ensured we had food and health care to get us through the worst of times. In my later teens, it was the advocacy of a social worker in the sanctuary of a foster home that positively altered the course of my life. This experience, the access to quality, equitable county services, is why I serve and I am seeking reelection. It is also why I've consistently supported expanding things like case management services for seniors, increased funding for youth centers, and affordable housing, and why I also joined my colleagues to expand mental health crisis support. Over my 18 years on the county board, I have built a track record of success, supporting our community and neighbors, and I've worked hard to improve the health of our lakes, expand recreational access, and advocate for sustainability to build our climate change resilience and stand for smart, proactive economic development.
What do you view as the most significant budget issues facing the board, and how would you propose addressing them?
Well, budgets are a reflection of our values. And as I said in my opening, my life experience drives me to ensure quality, equitable services are there to help our most vulnerable residents. Housing and food security are fundamental needs. And that is why I have supported allocating the greatest amount of our federal pandemic response dollars to both housing related needs and food security needs and food pantries. I've also supported expanding crisis response services to address behavioral and mental health emergencies. Um, that that investment and much more of what we do in human services impacts the justice system. We've done a number of things to reduce the jail population, um, and address disparities in our justice system. But to further address disparities means tackling fundamental root causes. Much of that work will be done through our human services. Human services represents the largest part of county spending, and I have started and will be looking ahead in the next term to explore ways to diversify our funding of human services to reduce the burden on taxpayers, but to also ensure services are sustained and meeting the needs of residents, both in lean times as well as good times.
What do you see as the next right steps for the county to take in addressing mental illness and substance use disorders to divert people from the criminal justice system?
Um, well, I think, our efforts around addressing mental health in particular. Several years ago, I supported the establishment of our Behavioral Health Resource Center, and an important expansion of that I supported in this year's budget is expansion of our crisis care services that we approved in this year's budget. That includes adding things to treat behavioral. Well, the important thing, I should say, is what's important about that is it allows us and first responders to treat behavioral health emergencies as a, a health care need and not as a law enforcement incident. It also, well, I should say, we have a need to create and expand those services, like I said, we did in this year's budget. Um, but in order to broaden that service even further, we need to build and develop a crisis and restorative restoration. I'm sorry, a crisis triage center. Um, and part of our challenge right now is state legislation is prohibiting that, or state regulations, I should say. There are some uh, s- state legislative action in place to create a lane for that regulatory avenue for us to develop that crisis triage center that is so sorely needed so that we can divert people in mental health or uh, aorta crisis situations from emergency rooms or the jail and into a place where they can be assessed and directed to the appropriate services.
How would you evaluate the county's current efforts to address homelessness? And are there any other steps you believe the county should take to address this issue?
Well, I firmly believe that housing is a fundamental need, and I know from my own life's experiences, without the security of a place to call home, you can't begin to address the problems in your life. And that's why I support our partnership with the city to build a new men's shelter and expand other shelter needs. And for years now, we've been investing in our Affordable Housing Development Fund. That investment has generated more than 2,500 affordable units people can call home, and 98 of those are right here in my hometown of McFarland. Um, but we need to look at a long range plan to meet the demand for affordable workforce housing. And that's why I supported uh, the regional housing strategy effort. And that was an effort through 2023 where the county coordinated with municipalities, private and nonprofit housing stakeholders to assess the shortage of affordable and workforce housing and to develop a plan to meet those challenges. And in fact, in a couple weeks, we'll be kicking off the next stage of that effort to begin putting recommendations from that planning effort into action. And I will continue to support allocating resources to make this plan a success.
Concerns continue about noise abatement related to the presence of the F-35 jet fighters and PFAS pollution at the airport. What would you seek to do about these concerns if elected?
Both these issues impact underserved and minority people more than others. And it's important for us on the county board to be a voice for those not heard and to elevate their concerns. Regarding the F-35s, the military obviously chose to place them at our Dane County airport. There wasn't much the county could do about that. But I have connected with leadership in the Air National Guard and will maintain open lines of communication to elevate people's concerns. Additionally, the Wisconsin Military Affairs has uh, established a community engagement process. In fact, in let's see, February from February 1st through the 3rd, there will be 3 listening sessions held at Madison College, and people can learn more about that at madisonf35.com. But they plan to run this engagement process through 2024. And I'm going to advocate that that engagement be sustained through as long as the F-35s are here. Regarding the PFAS concern, the Air National Guard is working with the DNR and county at assessing the extent of contamination. but defining the problem, while it's important, I am concerned that given that we're talking about the impacts on water supply, safe drinking water, the safety of eating fish from our lakes, that there needs to be more expedience in completing the investigation and to begin that work of remediation. Um, and additionally, we need to hold PFAS manufacturers accountable, and that is why I co-sponsored a resolution authorizing the county to engage outside counsel to participate in litigation to recover um, existing and future costs of investigating and remediating PFAS contamination caused by those manufacturers.
What else, if anything, should Dane County be doing to address health disparities?
Um, you know, one thing the pandemic really exposed is inequities in healthcare. Um, and then you add to that the action of the U.S. Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade, and that threat to reproductive health care disproportionately affected people of color. Um, there are several efforts that I supported to address health disparities. I supported and support the continued funding of our healthy community funds in public health. That's a grant program where organizations advance opportunities for healthy living for communities of color and people who are in low income populations. Um, some of those projects have included things like everything from providing healthy food for kids in underserved communities to providing drop-in clinics for people to address immediate health care needs, mental health care needs. Um, in regards to reproductive health, I believe reproductive health is health care, and that's why I supported calls to repeal the antiquated law in the Wisconsin statutes that would effectively ban abortions. Additionally, I supported the hiring of bilingual public health nurse to help reduce the wait lists that we are seeing for prenatal care of for pregnant people who are at risk of poor birth outcomes. And in this year's budget, I also supported the increased funding for the Saving Our Babies initiative that's um, being done by Foundation for Black Women's Wellness. And that's a program that's focused on reducing inequities in low weight birth as well as infant mortality. Um, in addition to that, I would say I would add gender affirming care as a concern in the area of health disparities. And I believe that gender affirming care is an important healthcare need. And that's why I spoke out when there was an insurance company that started eliminating gender affirming care health services.
Please tell us about other priorities for the residents of your district that we have not already addressed and how you would propose addressing them.
Okay. Like people in my district, I love our lakes, parks, our open spaces that allow us to uh, connect with and enjoy nature. And I cherish the memories that my son and I have fishing together on our lakes. I firmly believe that the more we're able to connect with nature, the more invested we are in protecting and taking care of our environment for future generations. And that's why I have committed to and have a long track record of protecting our land and water resources. I'm most proud of my work to bring the Lower Yahara River Trail uh, to fruition. It's a trail connecting the Capital City Trail, Lake Farm Park to McFarland, McDaniel Park here in McFarland. And it's been great to see so many people using it. We're seeing 175 to 200,000 people using that each year. And I'm happy to say that later this year, hopefully this summer, we'll see the next segment of that trail open up, connecting Fish Camp Park to Lake Gonza State Park. And on our west side, we're going to see a connection from Lake Farm Park to Wichita Trail that will help provide a safe avenue by getting people off of Lake Farm Road, and as part of my vision of seeing a full loop around the lake, bike loop around the lake. So I would say another area of uh, concern in my district is, like so many districts, we're seeing our aging population grow, and that's why I've supported increased funding in senior services, especially our case management services, as we see people's needs grow more acute. And I want to see that we're helping seniors live independently as long as possible. I probably running out of time, but another important area that I focus much of my work is around economic development in many avenues, and I'll maybe say something about that in my closing remarks, since I've used up more than my minute and a half.
Please tell us what you'd like to say to the viewing audience as we complete this interview.
Great. Well, again, I want to thank Madison City Channel and the League of Women Voters for this opportunity. The county board is facing a time of significant transition. We'll see a new county executive in several months. A majority of the county board will be new, just going into their first or second term. And we've seen retirement of several key staff positions. My years of experience in leadership on the county board and as county board chair will be critical in navigating a smooth transition. In our Human Services Department, we have more than 400 contracts with organizations to deliver services. The success of our work depends on collaboration and relationships. That's where my experience matters and makes a difference. I've built those relationships. I've met with a coalition of human service organizations leadership as an example. And, that kind of work doesn't make headlines, but building those relationships, listening, and collaborative problem solving is how we build success. And it's what you get with my experienced leadership on the county board and as county board chair. It's been an honor to serve the people of District 34 for nearly 18 years now. I love this community and all it has to offer, and I want to ensure it is here for future generations. And that's why I ask for your vote on April 2nd, so I can continue serving you and all the people of District 34 and of Dane County.
I want to thank Patrick Miles for speaking with us and thank the viewing audience for taking the time to know your candidate. I want to remind everyone that the general election is Tuesday, April 2nd. Every election is important. Please vote. On behalf of Madison City Channel and the League of Women Voters of Dane County, I thank you for joining us.